May 30th, 2025 was a special day for North Carolina and its rail fans. The spotlight was on the North Carolina Department of Transportation's Piedmont train service, a state-funded inner-city passenger loop celebrating its 30th birthday. I was in Cary that evening to enjoy the festivities as Amtrak's southbound Floridian got things underway, pulling into town on time. In typical Florida fashion, the appropriately named train brought with it this evening a rainstorm. The skies darkened as the cell gathered overhead, only making the primary colors on Engine 187 shine brighter. Train 41 was to make 2 stops in Cary tonight, as the platform is not long enough to accommodate an entire consist, therefore allowing 2 run-bys as the sleeper cars prepare for their turn on the platform. For a moment, I thought I was back in Winter Park as the beautiful combination of dark skies and sunset created some nice contrast on the ground below. The skies eventually opened up, however, which sent me hiding underneath a drive-through ATM while the southbound departed. Also fittingly Floridian, the rain was gone in only 20 minutes, clearing up in time for the evening's highlight. This is Piedmont Train 76 with newly repainted engine number 1893 on the point. It was also, unequivocally, the best horn show I've received to date. F59PH number 1893 is a beauty, and the engineer knows it. She's just been repainted in a scheme that mimics the North Carolina state flag worn by the Piedmont's first 2 locomotives when operations commenced in 1995. What began as a daily round trip between Raleigh and Charlotte has evolved into 4 high-speed round trips per day, boasting long-term ridership growth and a flurry of new developments to enhance the Piedmont's trajectory. It's great to see the DOT so proud of their progress by painting number 1893 in its heritage scheme. I certainly feel good about my tax dollars going to this one. The Heritage livery is complemented by a 30th anniversary herald on the cab and looks great on the wide-body locomotive. Train 76 had amassed quite a crowd in Cary. This is usually a pretty quick stop, but I'm almost certain the engineer made sure everybody was in position before pulling away. Throttling out of Cary, Train 76 has only 7 miles before it reaches the end of its day at Raleigh Union Station. Departing Raleigh throughout the morning and into the afternoon, the Piedmonts call on 7 intermediate stations while en route to Charlotte and back. The 173-mile run takes place on the main line of the North Carolina Railroad, a public company owned wholly by the state. NCRR doesn't run a single train, but rather invests in rail infrastructure across North Carolina, leaving Amtrak and the DOT to oversee passenger operations. 6 long-distance Amtrak trains traverse the NC line, with the Floridian running Chicago to Miami, the Carolinian from Charlotte to New York, and the Crescent between New Orleans and the Big Apple. Add in the 8 daily Piedmonts, and you have an impressive American passenger corridor. Amtrak and DOT ridership has grown consistently over the years, providing North Carolina citizens with an integral combination of long-distance and inner-city passenger service along the state's most populous stretch of terrain. More impressively, all of this happens on a shared main line with Norfolk Southern, who oversees the freight operations along NCRR trackage. Freight traffic is heavy between Charlotte and Greensboro, but we still have a few regulars in Raleigh, such as train E50. The manifest runs mixed traffic between Greensboro and Selma, feeding the railroad's Eastern Carolina business unit. In addition to Norfolk Southern, Amtrak, and the DOT, CSX has a presence along the NCRR between Cary and Raleigh. This is used for weekday locals L619 and L620 manifest shuttles between Hamlet and CSX's Capitol Yard north of downtown Raleigh. The 2 locals primarily serve CSX's Norlina subdivision, a weary branch line that's found itself in the spotlight as part of one of the most anticipated passenger corridors currently under development. When completed, the Norlina sub will be transformed into a high-speed passenger route connecting Raleigh and Richmond, resulting in competitive travel times along the heavily trafficked Atlanta to DC corridor. But for now, the pair of CSX locals is the most action we'll see as train L620 swings into Cary's junction, known as Fettner, on the railroad. It's where the S-Line joins NCRR, tracing routes back to the seaboard coastline and ending unceremoniously here at Fettner. Cary is a local hotspot within the Research Triangle. Any given morning will yield multiple trains, usually beginning with Amtrak's northbound Floridian, or so I thought. NS 350 made use of the joint main lines, quickly claiming ownership of the Raleigh suburb. While the Floridian sits on the S-Line out of frame on the south side of the station, you'll notice a platform along the NCRR as well. That's where I got my first glimpse of 1893, as Cary's train station cleverly straddles the 2 main lines. With tracks on either side, instances like this morning's are not isolated. This was my first time railfanning the area, and I figured it beginner's luck, but upon my second morning in Cary, I was astonished to realize the same scene was unfolding yet again. If you're listening closely, you'll notice I'm referring to this train as both E50 and 350. I've been railfanning the Research Triangle for 2 years now, during which this move was re-symboled from 350 to E50. No matter its identity, the manifest is a regular in the morning lineup, which also includes Amtrak's northbound Carolinian. Train 80 is almost always on time through the RDU area, having just originated in Charlotte with relatively little room for error, only 3 hours into the journey. Departing daily, the Carolinian is partially funded by the NCDOT and is part of Amtrak's Northeast Regional family. The service is exactly 5 years older than the state's Piedmont, meaning May 30th marked not one, but 2 important milestones for passenger service within the Tar Heel state. I was out again on May 31st to continue celebrating, knowing engine 1893 was due into Cary on train 72. I was glad to see the engine in proper daytime and think its livery looks wonderful in the high sun. In addition to its anniversary herald, you'll notice the engine sports some City of Burlington lettering under its numbers. The road number represents when Burlington was incorporated, with most of the DOT's locomotives numbered and named after big cities in North Carolina. Even after the proverbial veil was pulled back, 1893 brought a lot of rail fans trackside on this sunny Sunday. Train 72 now had the Raleigh Union Station in its sights, where it will offload all passengers and lay over until southbound 77's departure at 3:15 p.m. Arriving prior to 2 meant I had some time to kill, which I decided to fill by checking out Union Station and the neat photo angles that downtown offers. Union Station sits on the south side of Raleigh's CBD in the Warehouse District, outfitted with plenty of greenery and a viewing platform. The station is just 7 years old, boasting 4 long-distance Amtrak trains, 8 DOT trains to Charlotte, interconnectivity with Wake County's bus routes, and complete with a great location in the busy, walkable downtown. I quite enjoy when cities make their infrastructure as inviting and accessible as Raleigh, with Train 72 perfectly positioned for the fun to continue. In search of more angles, I eventually found myself behind some of those warehouses, oddly intrigued with their graffiti and natural flower gardens. After poking my way through a few more alleys, I was set up nicely for some roster shots of 1893, one of 8 F-59 PHs on the DOT's roster. Advocated for to EMD by Ontario's GO Transit in the 1980s, the commuter agency was looking for a new passenger locomotive from the manufacturer's portfolio. This resulted in the GP59 being modified with an HEP generator, cowl body, and Canadian comfort cab, all married in to the F59PH locomotive. The latter two specifications were common for our northern neighbors, with prototypes making their way into the states firsthand via the NCDOT and California's Metrolink. The latter has since retired their CAL units in favor of EMD's beastly F125, a decision imposed upon them by California's strict emission standards that haven't quite made their way into the Tar Heel state. The DOT is now one of only 3 agencies south of Ontario running these unique locomotives, part of the reason I've been highly intrigued by the Piedmont service for some time. The interesting engines and their specialty schemes provide fun, impromptu outings for me as both a rail fan and public transit supporter. It's wonderful to see a state agency so proud of their history to the point that they created a heritage scheme. I mean, a state-funded F59 heritage unit. Where else can you find something like that? Nowhere, and I'm lucky to have this engine in my backyard. I took advantage of both the luck and time on my hands, positioning myself on downtown's colorful Boylan Bridge for train 77's departure. This is the last daily round trip out of Raleigh, departing right on time today for North Carolina's Queen City. Overlooking Raleigh's tangle of tracks downtown, Boylan is an awesome place to wait for trains and catch a sunset vista. It wasn't but a few days until I was doing both of those things, enjoying some views of our capital city while waiting for inbound train 76. The evening Piedmont can usually be timed with Amtrak's southbound Floridian, first on scene tonight into Union Station, making for a great addition to Boylan's stellar view. Natural vistas are far more interesting to me than man-made ones, but I gotta say, the vibrant downtown skyline made me think twice this evening. Amtrak hosts a crew change here in Raleigh, with some cushion built into the timetable to help late-running trains resume schedule. It worked beautifully tonight, as train 91 came in a tad late and left right on time. Not to be dramatic, but tonight's Floridian is quite the metaphor. It feels like yesterday this was the Silver Star powered by dual P-42s, and goes to show you don't know what you've got until it's gone. The Genesis engines are some of my favorites. It's bittersweet knowing this awesome GE chug might not have long on Amtrak, as the future rides second out on the Floridian in the form of an ALC-42 Charger. Sliding over from track 2 to 1, the Floridian was making room for inbound 76, who showed its blue and silver face not 5 minutes later. Similar to their locomotives, the state's passenger cars are named for ecological icons of North Carolina, such as tonight's Cardinal, Granite, and Pamlico Sound. While 1893 is one of a kind, I've found it even more difficult to find the DOT's other locomotive model, the F59 PHI. A streamlined version of the Canadian engines, the PHIs resulted from a partnership between EMD and Amtrak, who sought a sleeker, faster, and more powerful version of the popular Canadian locomotives. The result is most evident by the F59 PHI's streamlined nose cone, selling much better in the American market, with the DOT rostering 2 of them and 8 other organizations still running theirs. For whatever reason, they aren't used too often on the Piedmont, as I've only seen them leading 3 times. While revenue runs start and end at Union Station, all of the state's equipment is kept at CSX's Capitol Yard, with some rarely used cab control units found here as well. This means a deadhead to and from Union Station is required before and after each run, which lends a few more angles to capture the train through as it peels off NCRR, with the city of Asheville set up to lead through downtown. 2 years later found me just half a mile north, waiting for another deadhead as 1893 brings train 76 through the concrete jungle. These tracks serve the DOT, CSX, NS, and RJ Corman, as all 4 diverge from the NCRR at Boylan and access their respective yards via this downtown double track. It lends a neat landscape to watch some deadhead maneuvering, as the intercity passenger train can be found creeping through the heart of Raleigh with its revived state flag paint scheme. Moving just a few yards north, another night found me watching 1893 heading home. The 42nd Street Oyster Bar is quite a local landmark, most well known for delicious seafood, but the readily available train watching opportunities tend to fly under most people's radars. really like these deadhead shots as the DOT train meanders through the robust city center. While the F-59 PHs are numbered in the 18 and 1900s, the Piedmont PHIs are numbers 1755 and 1797 for the cities of Salisbury and Asheville, respectively. One might think it's odd that engine 1797 is named for a city it has yet to serve, but there are a lot of future plans currently floating around the DOT building. Short-term developments include a fifth daily round trip in the works, with larger dreams seeing the Piedmont extended into Wilmington to the south and Asheville to the west. These plans often come with a chicken versus egg conundrum. Higher ridership is needed to support physical growth, which may be the force required to enjoy higher ridership. I'm hopeful that a fifth daily Piedmont might light a fire beneath other, longer projects such as Asheville, while tracks to Wilmington are excitingly confirmed. The coastal plan is measured in decades, however, but I do look forward to taking the train into the port city for the weekend. This will also require a replacement of the Piedmont's aging fleet of rail cars and locomotives, which the state has said will come in the form of Siemens' new Aero train sets currently undergoing tests in Pueblo, Colorado. The desert is a far cry from Raleigh's ample green space, as I found the Heritage F-59 on Train 74 at a hideout between NC State and downtown. Following its rebirth, I clearly spent a lot of time enjoying 1893 and its new livery. During this time, I tried to figure out if there's any rhyme or reason to which train set is used for which Piedmont, but it seems to me that there is none. I enjoy the element of surprise when casually railfanning such as these outings, which I've been trying to compile into a comprehensive video for quite some time. The off-site repaint of 1893 gave me a great way to tie my capital city railfanning together. Nearly all of these shots were filmed between Raleigh and Cary, but it wouldn't be a true Raleigh showcase without mentioning the local farmers market. Open every day just south of downtown, trips to the market oftentimes align with a sighting of the Piedmont, with everybody's favorite leader catching us on the way home. On long-term lease to the DOT, I think I've seen Amtrak 38 on more Piedmonts than most other locomotives. As I do love the Genesis engines, I'd usually be pleased to see it, but when you're expecting an F-59 in the snow, an Amtrak P-42 doesn't quite hit the same. This is still one of my favorite shots of the Piedmont, as 38 hustles through some rare powder in the capital city. Amtrak 38 is also proof that the DOT spins their locomotives on the Y at Boylan Junction. It must not happen often, but at least I know it does, as 6 months after the snowfall found the P-42 facing east, helping to bring train 75 into Cary. The Piedmont trains are technically an Amtrak service, branded and funded entirely by the state of North Carolina. It's the only train you'll find with a state identity, and one of 3 uniquely branded Amtrak trains alongside the Cascades and Surfliner. While it is faster to drive between Raleigh and Charlotte, Vancouver to Eugene, or San Luis Obispo to San Diego, Intercity Rail beats rubber tire travel time between its intermediate cities. This is where Intercity Passenger shines, helping connect smaller towns to larger city centers. North Carolina does it wonderfully from a traveler and railfan perspective, as the face of a Triclops EMD in state-sponsored paint is always a welcomed sight. All in all, I'm very excited about the Piedmont's long-standing success, its governmental support, and of course, its newest celebratory look. It has been a blast to watch the silver and blue trains streak by over the years, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for one of our country's premier intercity rail services. Thanks for railfanning with me today. I hope you found North Carolina's Piedmont as fun and interesting as I have.